The stars shimmered through the viewport of the observation deck. Janet Mills stood with her hands clasped behind her back, watching the alien ships move into position around Earth's orbital stations. The ships were beautiful in a strange way, with smooth curves and glowing blue energy fields. They belonged to the Galactic Council, the organization that ruled most of the known galaxy. 3 weeks ago, humanity had celebrated their greatest achievement. They had finally cracked the secret of faster-than-light travel. The first human starship had jumped to Alpha Centauri and back in just 2 days. Everyone thought this would be the beginning of a new golden age for humanity. They were wrong. The moment humans activated their first jump drive, the Galactic Council had noticed. Within hours, massive alien fleets appeared near Earth, Mars, and all the human colonies. The aliens called themselves the Zephyrians, and they were the leaders of the council. They were tall creatures with pale blue skin and large black eyes that never seemed to blink. Now Janet stood in the council chamber aboard their flagship. As Earth's chosen ambassador, she had tried to explain that humans meant no harm. She had shown them humanity's art, music, and scientific achievements. She had promised that humans would follow the Council's laws and contribute to galactic civilization. The Zephyrian High Commander raised one thin hand. His voice sounded like wind chimes when he spoke. The Council has observed your species for many cycles. You show great potential, but also great danger. Janet stepped forward. We can learn. Give us a chance to prove ourselves. You have proven yourselves, the commander replied. Your history is full of conflict. Your first instinct when meeting something new is to fight it or control it. Even now, your military forces prepare weapons in secret. Janet felt her heart sink. The Zephyrians had been watching Earth for longer than anyone knew. They had seen all of humanity's wars, all their mistakes. Another council member spoke up. This one looked like a giant crystal spider. The humans destroyed their own environment. They fight among themselves constantly. They cannot be trusted with advanced technology. A third alien, resembling a floating jellyfish made of light, added its thoughts. They are too young, too aggressive. They need more time to mature as a species. The High Commander nodded slowly. The Council has decided. Humanity will be relocated to the outer rim of the galaxy. There you will have space to grow and learn. When you have proven you can live in peace, perhaps we will reconsider. Janet felt anger rise in her chest. You're exiling us. For what crime? For being human. For the safety of all, the commander said simply. This is not punishment. This is protection. Within hours, the Council's decision was put into action. Human ships trying to resist were disabled by weapons that seemed to freeze them in space. Colonies were surrounded by energy barriers that slowly pushed them toward massive quantum gates. Captain Frank Roberts watched from the bridge of humanity's newest warship, the Horizon. His crew wanted to fight, but he knew it was hopeless. The aliens' technology was centuries ahead of Earth's. Sir, they're opening the quantum gate, his first officer reported. They're going to push us through. Frank gripped the arms of his captain's chair. Through the view screen, he could see the massive ring-shaped gate. Beyond it was darkness, the empty void of the galaxy's edge. All ships, this is Captain Roberts. He announced over the fleet communication system. Do not resist. We'll go through this together. Humanity has survived worse. As the human fleet was pushed through the gate, Frank looked back at Earth one last time. The blue marble grew smaller and smaller until it vanished. The gate closed behind them with a flash of light. They were alone now, cast out into the darkness of the outer rim. But Frank made a silent promise. Humanity would survive this. They would grow stronger. And one day, they would return. The outer rim was nothing like the star charts showed. Where humanity expected to find empty space with a few barren planets, they found chaos. Solar flares erupted without warning. Asteroids moved in unpredictable patterns. Strange radiation filled the void between stars. Commander Lisa Chen stood on the bridge of the colony ship New Hope. Through the viewport, She watched a purple storm of energy sweep across space. Her sensors couldn't even identify what kind of energy it was. "Another storm coming in from Sector 7, her navigator announced. "It'll hit us in 20 minutes. Lisa nodded. "Take us behind that moon. Use it as a shield." 3 months had passed since the exile. The 10 million humans spread across 50 ships had quickly learned that the Outer Rim was a death trap. The Galactic Council hadn't just exiled them, they had sent them to die. But humans were stubborn. They refused to give up. On the engineering deck, Paul Smith worked with his team to modify the ship's shields. His hands were black with grease, and he hadn't slept in 2 days. The standard shields that protected ships in normal space were useless here. "Try reversing the polarity," Paul told his assistant. "Maybe these storms respond to negative energy." They had lost 3 ships in the first week. The Hope's sister ship had flown into what looked like a calm area of space, only to be torn apart by invisible forces. Another ship's crew had gone mad from exposure to an unknown type of radiation. The third had simply vanished, leaving no trace. Lisa called a meeting of all surviving ship captains. Their holograms filled the conference room, each face showing the strain of the past months. "We can't keep running," Captain Roberts said. "We need to find a safe place to settle." "There is no safe place," another captain argued. "Every planet we've scanned is either toxic, radioactive, or already inhabited by hostile creatures." Lisa stood up. "Then we adapt. We change ourselves to fit this environment, or we die." Her words silenced the room. Everyone knew what she meant. They would have to modify their technology, maybe even their bodies, to survive here. The first breakthrough came by accident. A young scientist named Amy Jones was studying the strange radiation when her protection suit failed. Instead of killing her, the radiation did something unexpected. Her reflexes became faster. Her mind worked more quickly. She could solve complex equations in her head. Paul Smith ran tests on Amy's blood. "The radiation is changing our DNA," he reported to Lisa. "It's making us stronger, smarter." "Is it dangerous?" Lisa asked. "Everything here is dangerous," Paul replied. "But this might be our only chance." They found their first habitable world 2 weeks later. It wasn't much, just a rocky planet with a thin atmosphere and constant earthquakes. But it had water, and the radiation levels were manageable. Lisa named it Haven. The first colony on Haven was built inside a mountain. Humans learned to work with the earthquakes instead of fighting them. They designed buildings that could flex and bend. They dug deep into the rock for protection. More discoveries followed. They found that certain local plants could be eaten if cooked at exact temperatures. They learned to predict the energy storms by watching the behavior of space dust. They even found ways to harness the strange radiation for power. But the biggest change was in the humans themselves. Children born in the Outer Rim were different. They were stronger, faster, and could see types of light that normal humans couldn't. Their brains developed new pathways to process the alien environment. One night, Lisa stood outside the colony dome, looking up at the alien stars. The purple energy storms danced across the sky like northern lights. She thought about Earth, about the comfortable life they had lost. Paul joined her. "Any regrets?" he asked. Lisa smiled. "Ask me in 10 years. If we're still alive, I'll let you know." In the distance, construction crews were building new homes. Children played in specially designed safe zones. Scientists worked in labs, unlocking the secrets of their new home. Humanity was changing. What didn't kill them was indeed making them stronger. 50 years had passed since the exile. The harsh Outer Rim had transformed humanity into something new. Children born here were different from their Earth-born parents. They could see ultraviolet light, think faster, and survive in conditions that would kill normal humans. Dr. Monica Davis led an exploration team through the ruins on a planet they called Mystery. The structures were ancient, older than anything in Council space. Tall black towers rose from the red sand, covered in symbols that hurt to look at directly. "This writing is unlike anything we've seen," Monica said, running her scanner over the walls. "The material isn't even in our database." Her assistant, Jake Miller, pointed to a doorway. "Look at this. The entrance changes shape when you approach it." They had found these ruins by accident. A mining team looking for rare metals had discovered the first tower buried under centuries of sand. Now, 6 months later, they had uncovered an entire city. Monica touched the wall, and suddenly the symbols began to glow. Knowledge flooded into her mind, not in words, but in pure understanding. She gasped and pulled her hand back. "What happened?" Jake asked, concerned. "I understood it," Monica whispered. "For a moment, I knew what it said. These beings, they called themselves the architects. They built this place as a library." Over the following weeks, Monica's team learned to interface with the alien technology. The architects had been masters of dimensional science. They could fold space, hide entire star systems, and create pockets of reality that existed outside normal spacetime. General Kyle Johnson arrived to assess the military applications. He was a third-generation Rim-born human, taller and stronger than Earth humans, with eyes that could see in near darkness. "Imagine ships that can hide in folded space," Kyle said, watching Monica demonstrate the dimensional device. "The Council would never see us coming." Monica frowned. "This technology could do more than hide weapons. We could build entire worlds in pocket dimensions, create safe havens where the radiation can't reach us." They were both right. Over the next 5 years, human scientists reverse-engineered the architect technology. They learned to create dimensional pockets, small at first, then larger. They built the first hidden shipyard in folded space, invisible to any scanning technology the Council possessed. Captain Maria Rodriguez commanded the first dimensional ship, the Shadow. During its maiden voyage, the ship successfully folded space around itself, disappearing from normal reality for 10 minutes before reappearing 1,000 kilometers away. "It works," Maria reported. "We can move unseen." Word of the discovery spread through the human colonies. Hope grew for the first time in decades. They began construction of humanity's first hidden city, built entirely within a dimensional fold. They called it Sanctuary. The dimensional technology solved many problems. Ships could now travel safely through the outer rim by briefly folding into protected space when storms hit. Colonies could hide their activities from any Council spy probes that might venture this far out. Dr. Monica Davis became the head of the new Dimensional Research Institute. Under her leadership, humans pushed the boundaries of what was possible. They created communication networks that used dimensional tunnels, allowing instant contact between distant colonies. But the most important discovery was yet to come. Deep in the architect ruins, Monica's team found something extraordinary. A map. Not just any map, but a dimensional chart showing hidden pathways throughout the entire galaxy. The architects built a secret network, Monica explained to the colony leaders. Dimensional corridors that connect distant parts of the galaxy. The Council never found these because they exist in folded space. General Kyle Johnson saw the implications immediately. We could travel anywhere without being detected, build bases throughout the galaxy. The Council would never know. Monica nodded. But more than that. These corridors pass near many inhabited systems, systems where species live under Council control. We could make contact, learn about the galaxy, maybe even help those who suffer under Council rule. The human leadership made a decision. They would explore these hidden paths. They would learn about the galaxy that had cast them out, and they would build something new in the shadows. The hidden renaissance had begun. The year 2250 marked a turning point for humanity. What had started as a desperate fight for survival had grown into something magnificent. Hidden in dimensional pockets across thousands of star systems, humanity had built an invisible empire. Trademaster Gary Wilson stood in the command center of Haven Station, watching dozens of holographic displays. Each screen showed a different hidden colony or outpost. Red lines marked the dimensional corridors that connected them all. The new Singapore colony reports successful harvest, an operator announced. They're ready to share their food surplus with the mining stations. Gary nodded. The network was working perfectly. Ships traveled through dimensional space, invisible to Council sensors. Colonies traded resources, shared technology, and helped each other grow. In just 20 years, they had built what the Council had taken centuries to achieve. But Gary knew they needed more. Humanity couldn't remain isolated forever. They needed allies, trading partners, and information about the wider galaxy. Admiral Karen Taylor entered the command center. She was tall and lean, with the enhanced physique of all Rim-born humans. Her eyes could track movement faster than any Earth-born human. "The Shadow Fleet is ready," Karen reported. 50 ships, all equipped with dimensional drives. "We can begin the contact missions." Gary had been waiting for this news. For months, they had been monitoring Council space through careful probe missions. They had identified species that seemed unhappy under Council rule. Now it was time to make contact. The first contact was with the Threen, a race of small, furry beings who lived on high-gravity worlds. The Council used them as miners, forcing them to work in dangerous conditions for little reward. Captain Bill Anderson commanded the first contact mission. His ship, the Whisper, emerged from dimensional space near a Threen mining colony. The Threen ships immediately went on alert, but Bill transmitted a message of peace. "We are humans," Bill announced. "We come offering trade and friendship, not conquest." The Threen were suspicious at first. They had never heard of humans. But when Bill's crew demonstrated their dimensional technology and offered to share mining equipment that would make their work safer, the Threen listened. Within months, a secret trade network was established. Humans provided advanced technology and medical supplies. In return, the Threen shared information about Council space and helped hide human activities. More contacts followed. The Seekers, brilliant scientists who the Council restricted from certain research. The Makers, master craftsmen whose artistic traditions were being suppressed. The Guardians, warriors who had grown tired of enforcing Council law against peaceful species. Each contact was careful, cautious. Gary Wilson personally oversaw the negotiations. He discovered that many species were unhappy with Council rule but felt powerless to resist. "The Council takes our children for their colonies," a Maker elder told Gary. "They say it's for education, but our young return change, forgetting our ways. The Zephyrians fear change," a Seeker scientist explained. "They keep the galaxy static, preventing progress that might threaten their control." Admiral Karen Taylor used this information to expand the Shadow Fleet. Hidden shipyards produced vessels using hybrid technology, combining human innovation with alien knowledge. The ships could phase between dimensions, strike without warning, and disappear before retaliation. But the most important development was the Underground Railroad, a network dedicated to helping oppressed beings escape Council space. Hidden stations provided shelter. Modified ships transported refugees to human colonies where they could live freely. Dr. Sarah Kim, a xenobiologist, worked to ensure all species could survive in human habitats. "Every being deserves freedom," she often said. "We're building something better than the Council ever imagined." By the end of 2250, the Shadow Network stretched across half the galaxy. Thousands of beings from dozens of species lived in human-protected space. Trade flowed through dimensional corridors. Knowledge was shared freely. The Council remained unaware. Their sensors showed empty space where human bases thrived. Their patrols passed through dimensional pockets without detecting the civilizations hidden within. But Gary Wilson knew this couldn't last forever. Eventually, the Council would discover what humanity had built. "Let them find us," Admiral Taylor said during a strategy meeting. "By then, we'll be ready." The Galactic Council chamber was as magnificent as ever. Crystal walls reached toward a ceiling that showed the swirling galaxy above. Representatives from 100 species sat in floating chairs, discussing trade agreements and border disputes. High Commander Zeth of the Zephyrians didn't know that among his staff was a human spy. William Harris had been living as a Kelvin for 3 years. Advanced biosculpting had given him purple skin and 4 arms. Neural implants let him speak the Kelvin language perfectly. To everyone in the council bureaucracy, he was just another minor official. But William was the head of humanity's intelligence network. His agents were scattered throughout council space, gathering information and recruiting allies. In his private quarters, William reviewed reports from his spy network. The news was troubling. The council was growing weak from within. Corruption was everywhere. Resources meant for developing worlds disappeared into private accounts. Ancient treaties were ignored when convenient. The Zephyrians only care about maintaining power, William wrote in his encrypted report. Many council species are growing restless. On the planet Nexus Prime, Agent Diana Chen worked as a teacher in a mixed-species school. She saw firsthand how the council's policies affected ordinary beings. The curriculum taught that the Zephyrians had brought peace to the galaxy, but Diana knew the truth. They had brought order through fear. Her students came from many species. Some were from worlds conquered by the council. Others were from species that had joined willingly, only to find their freedoms slowly stripped away. During lunch break, Diana overheard young beings talking. "My parents say we were happier before the council came," whispered a young Vrex. "Quiet," his friend warned. "The monitors are listening." Diana made note of these conversations. Dissent was growing, especially among the young. Meanwhile, the Shadow Network's influence spread quietly. When plague struck the Morvic colonies, medicine appeared mysteriously in their hospitals. When the council cut food shipments to punish the rebellious Crate, supply ships arrived in the night, their origins unknown. People began to whisper about the ghost protectors. No one knew who they were, but their help always came when needed most. Captain Elena Vasquez commanded one of these ghost ships. Her crew specialized in stealth supply runs to worlds under council embargo. They had just delivered water purifiers to a desert world when her sensors detected something unusual. "Council patrol changing course," her navigator reported. "They're investigating our dimensional wake." Elena ordered immediate dimensional jump. Her ship vanished just as the patrol arrived. The council found only empty space and fading energy readings they couldn't explain. Back on Haven, the human leadership met to discuss the changing galaxy. General Kyle Johnson presented military intelligence. Trade Master Gary Wilson shared economic reports. Spy Master William Harris connected via secure channel from his position inside the council. "The council is weaker than it appears," William reported. "Their technology has stagnated. Their best scientists are constrained by dogma. Their military is spread thin." Dr. Monica Davis added her analysis. "We've made more technological progress in a century than they have in 500 years. The dimensional technology alone gives us a massive advantage." But President John Carter urged caution. "We're not conquerors. We won't become what we oppose." They agreed on a strategy. Continue building the Shadow Network. Keep helping oppressed species. Prepare for the day when the council would discover them. That day was coming sooner than anyone expected. On a remote council monitoring station, a technician noticed strange readings. Energy signatures that appeared and disappeared. Ships that seemed to exist in 2 places at once. He reported it to his superiors, who dismissed it as sensor malfunctions. But senior analyst Zek of the Zephyrians was not so quick to dismiss the reports. He began collecting similar anomalies from across council space. A pattern emerged. Something was moving through the galaxy, hidden but not invisible. "Increase sensor sensitivity in these sectors," Zek ordered. "Whatever this is, we will find it." The silent revolution continued. In markets across the galaxy, beings whispered about the ghost protectors. In schools, young minds questioned council doctrine. In hidden bases, humans and their allies prepared for change. The galaxy was awakening. The Keth homeworld was a paradise of floating islands and crystal-clear skies. For thousands of years, the peaceful Keth had lived in harmony with their environment, developing art and philosophy instead of weapons. They had joined the Galactic Council willingly, believing in its promise of protection and unity. Now, Council warships darkened their skies. High Commander Zeth's voice echoed across the planet's communication systems. The Keth have refused to surrender their cultural archives to Council control. This defiance cannot be tolerated. You have 1 hour to comply or face the consequences. Elder Kira of the Keth stood in their ancient temple, surrounded by glowing memory crystals that held their entire history. Her feathered wings trembled with fear, but her voice was steady. "We cannot give you our souls," she replied. "Our memories, our songs, our stories, they are who we are. Take them, and we cease to exist." The Council fleet powered up their weapons, planet cracker bombs that could turn the surface to molten glass. The Keth had no defenses. They had never needed them. In dimensional space nearby, Captain Sandra Peterson watched through her ship's sensors. Her crew of 60 humans and allied species waited for her orders. They had been monitoring Council activities when they detected the fleet movement. "They're really going to do it," her weapons officer said in disbelief. "They're going to destroy an entire civilization just for refusing to give up their culture." Sandra made her decision. "Send the signal. All Shadow Fleet units in range. Converge on these coordinates. We're going in." 12 human ships dropped out of dimensional space around the Keth homeworld. They were outnumbered 5-1 by the Council fleet, but they had advantages the Council didn't expect. Sandra opened a channel to the Council flagship. "This is Captain Peterson of the Human Defense Force. Stand down your weapons and leave this system immediately." High Commander Zeth's blue face appeared on her screen, his large black eyes wide with surprise. "Humans? Impossible. You were exiled. You should be dead." "We got better," Sandra replied. "Last warning. Leave now, or we'll make you leave." Zeth laughed. 12 ships against 60. You humans are still as foolish as ever. All units, open fire." The Council ships launched their weapons. Missiles, energy beams, and plasma torpedoes filled space. But something strange happened. The weapons stopped working. Targeting systems failed. Engines shut down. In seconds, the entire Council fleet was dead in space. "What did you do?" Zeth demanded. Sandra smiled. "We learned a few tricks in exile. Your ships are fine, just temporarily disabled. We're evacuating the Keth to safety. Don't try to follow." Human shuttles and cargo ships emerged from dimensional space. They began evacuating the Keth population, millions of beings transported to hidden colonies in pocket dimensions. The entire operation took 6 hours. Elder Kira was the last to leave. She stood on the bridge of Sandra's ship, watching her world shrink behind them. "Why did you save us?" she asked. "You owe us nothing." "Because it was right," Sandra answered. "And because someone needs to stand up to the Council's tyranny." The event sent shockwaves through the galaxy. The Council's official news claimed terrorists had kidnapped the Keth, but the truth spread through whispered channels. The Ghost Protectors were real. They were human, and they had technology that could defeat the Council's best weapons. On Zephyria Prime, the Council held an emergency session. Senior Analyst Sek presented his findings. The humans never died in exile. They'd been building an empire in the shadows. They have allies among the lesser species. Their technology is beyond anything we possess. High Commander Zeth stood before the assembly. "Then we must unite all Council forces, every ship, every warrior. We will hunt down these humans and finish what we started a century ago." But when the call went out, something unexpected happened. Several Council species refused to send their fleets. The Seekers claimed their ships were needed for research. The Makers said they were busy with construction projects. The Guardians simply didn't respond. The cracks in the Council's unity were showing. And in the shadows, humanity prepared for the inevitable confrontation. The largest fleet in galactic history gathered at the Council's military center. Over 10,000 ships from dozens of species formed ranks in precise formations. High Commander Zeth stood on the bridge of the flagship Eternal Order, watching the assembly with satisfaction. "Today we end the human threat," he announced across all channels. "They hide in shadows, but we will drag them into the light and finish what we began." But something was wrong. The Seeker scientific vessels stayed at the edge of the formation. The Maker supply ships moved slowly, as if reluctant. The Guardian battleships kept their weapons powered down. Deep in dimensional space, Supreme Commander Alex Turner watched the Council fleet through advanced sensors. The human Shadow Fleet had grown to 3,000 ships, each one equipped with technology the Council couldn't match. "They outnumber us 3-1, reported Admiral Karen Taylor. Alex smiled. "Numbers aren't everything. And we have friends among them." The human fleet emerged from dimensional space in perfect formation. They appeared surrounding the Council fleet, having used dimensional corridors to bypass all defenses. But instead of attacking, Alex broadcast a message on all frequencies. "Members of the Galactic Council, we are humanity. We were cast out as barbarians. We return as liberators. We offer you a choice. Continue serving tyranny or join us in building a better galaxy." The message included data packets showing the truth about Council corruption, the oppression of smaller species, and the stagnation of technology under Zephyrian rule. It showed the thriving colonies in human space where all species lived as equals. The first ship to change sides was a Seeker research vessel. Its captain, Velnor, transmitted publicly. "The humans speak truth. Under them, we pursue knowledge freely. Under the Council, we are chained." More ships followed. Maker vessels announced they would not fire on those who had helped their people. Guardian ships declared their duty was to protect the innocent, not preserve corrupt power. High Commander Zeth watched in rage as his fleet fractured. Traitors, all loyal ships, opened fire on the defectors. The battle that followed was unlike any in galactic history. But it wasn't the massive fleet engagement Zeth had planned. Instead, human ships used dimensional technology to appear and disappear, disabling weapons without destroying ships. They protected defecting vessels while avoiding killing whenever possible. Captain Sandra Peterson led a strike team that boarded the Eternal Order. Using dimensional phasing, they bypassed shields and appeared directly on the bridge. Zeth found himself surrounded by humans whose very existence he had tried to deny. "The war is over," Sandra told him. "Your empire is finished." Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out. Human agents revealed themselves in Council facilities. Oppressed species rose up, supported by human technology and allies. The rigid control structure the Zephyrians had maintained for 1,000 years crumbled in days. But the humans didn't conquer. In system after system, they helped local species take control of their own worlds. They shared technology freely, opened trade routes, and established democratic councils where all species had equal voice. The final battle took place at Zephyria Prime. The last loyal council forces made their stand around the homeworld. But when the human fleet arrived, they'd brought something unexpected. Representatives from every species that had joined them. Supreme Commander Turner gave the Zephyrians one last chance. "Surrender. Join the new Federation as equals. Your time of ruling over others is ended, but you can still be part of something greater." Some Zephyrians accepted. They were tired of the burden of empire, ready to live as equals rather than masters. Others fled to remote systems, clinging to dreams of restored power. Within a month, the Galactic Council was dissolved. In its place rose the United Galactic Federation, based on principles of equality, freedom, and mutual cooperation. Human technology was shared with all members. Dimensional travel opened new possibilities for exploration and growth. The revolution was complete, not through conquest, but through liberation. The galaxy would never be the same. The Grand Assembly Hall on New Geneva was unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Built using dimensional architecture, it could hold representatives from thousands of worlds while feeling intimate and welcoming. Sunlight from 3 different stars filtered through crystal walls, creating patterns of rainbow light. Ambassador Janet Mills, now 90 years old but still sharp, walked slowly to the podium. Her hair was silver, her face lined with age, but her eyes held the same determination they had shown during humanity's exile. As one of the last surviving members of the original contact team, she had been chosen to give the opening address. The hall fell silent. Representatives from over 2,000 species waited to hear from the woman who had witnessed humanity's darkest hour and its greatest triumph. 100 years ago, I stood before the Galactic Council, Janet began, her voice strong despite her age. They called us barbarians. They said we were too violent, too unpredictable to join civilized space. They cast us out to die in the darkness of the outer rim. She paused, looking around the vast assembly. Today, I stand before you in a hall built by free beings, in a federation based on equality and cooperation. We were not broken by exile. We were forged into something better. The assembled representatives, many from species once oppressed by the council, applauded. Among them sat Keth, whose world had been saved from destruction. Makers whose art now flourished freely. Seekers whose scientific discoveries were advancing faster than ever before. In the human section, the changes were visible. The descendants of Earth were taller, stronger, their eyes adapted to see spectrums of light their ancestors couldn't imagine. But they sat as equals among all the other species. President Elena Martinez, great-granddaughter of one of the original exile ship's crew, took the podium next. The United Galactic Federation is not a human empire, she declared. It belongs to all of us. Every species brings unique gifts. Every world adds to our shared strength. The first year of the Federation had been challenging. Rebuilding after the Council's fall, establishing new trade routes, creating fair governments on thousands of worlds. But the results were already showing. Technology sharing had led to breakthroughs in medicine, agriculture, and space travel. Worlds that had been kept isolated now traded freely. On the planet Haven, where humanity had built its first outer rim colony, a monument stood in the central square. It honored all who had died during the exile years, but also celebrated what had been achieved. Captain Frank Roberts, now retired, often visited it. "You were right," his daughter said, standing beside him. "They did regret casting us out." Frank smiled. "Not in the way I thought. I wanted revenge. But what we built instead was so much better." The Shadow Fleet still existed, transformed into the Federation Defense Force. Ships from all member species served together, protecting trade routes and exploring new frontiers. The dimensional technology, once humanity's secret weapon, was now shared knowledge advancing the entire galaxy. Dr. Monica Davis, despite her advanced age, still led research projects. Her latest work focused on opening permanent dimensional gateways to other galaxies. "Why stop here?" she often said. "There's an entire universe to explore." The Zephyrians who had chosen to join the Federation found their place too. Without the burden of maintaining an empire, many became philosophers and artists, contributing to the cultural renaissance sweeping the galaxy. As the first Federation Assembly concluded, representatives returned to their worlds with hope. The Ghost Protectors were ghosts no more. They were partners, friends, fellow citizens of a galaxy reborn. That night, on 1,000 worlds, beings looked up at the stars with new eyes. Parents told their children stories not of conquest and control, but of cooperation and growth. The age of empires was over. The age of exploration and unity had begun. Janet Mills stood on her balcony, watching ships from dozens of species depart New Geneva. "We were cast out alone," she whispered to the stars. "We return as family." The empire no one saw coming had become something greater, a galaxy united not by force, but by choice.